I have 10 health topics that are really dumb that you're gonna find on YouTube. Number 9, it gets a little personal. Number 1, LDL does not matter. What you'll find on the internet is that it's a conspiracy theory. They faked research many years ago. It was the big pharma. Nobody ever talks about little pharma. Nobody ever talks about the pharmaceutical companies that haven't made it yet. It's always big pharma, and they're trying to keep us sick. It was a lie that LDLs caused heart disease. Cholesterol was a total myth. It was a way for people to sell more drugs, these greedy big pharmaceutical companies. So before YouTube, nobody ever heard of this idea before. You just went to your doctor. If you had LDLs that were high, you just took statins. Nobody ever questioned it. But now doctors, that most of them aren't really practicing, they're not seeing patients in a clinic. There's a lot of people saying all these things, and it's very confusing. And sometimes you will see that people in the comment section will say, yeah, my doctor, he's trying to get me on statins. He's a killer. He's a liar. He's just a yes man. And the answer is, if LDLs, if it were true, and maybe it is, who knows? We don't know. But if it were true that LDLs are actually not dangerous, then stop getting them tested. The doctor was trained to give you statins when you have high cholesterol, high LDLs. He sees it as a marker for heart disease and strokes. He's afraid you're going to have a heart attack or stroke. But according to doctors on the internet, he's the liar. So if you believe that LDLs are not the cause of heart disease and stuff, stop getting it tested. Why would you go to your doctor and argue with them about it? If you're going to go to the doctor and disagree with them, there's no point of doing that. That would be like an atheist going to a Catholic church and trying to make an argument that there's no God or no Jesus. Why would you do that? Why waste your time? So of course there's lots of diets, keto, carnivore, ketovore. They help you lose weight because you stop eating processed foods. You stop eating, quite frankly, you stop eating most foods and you just eat a very narrow range of foods. And guess what happens? You lose weight. That's awesome. Yay, you lost weight. You haven't lost weight with any other diet except this diet. Fantastic. There's only one problem. Some of these diets, for some people that they make a lot of cholesterol internally, man, their LDLs go up. The problem is that you're gonna have to have that conversation with a doctor if you go to the doctor. But the good news is, for a lot of people, these diets don't raise their LDLs, because one of the fascinating things, and it's not really controversial, it's just there are human differences, that some people, they make more cholesterol than other people. Some people can eat nothing but fat, and their body just simply won't make cholesterol as much as other people. And that's kind of cool, because if you can get some of the benefits while not having the high risk for heart disease, then that's fantastic. Another good thing is if LDLs were actually healthy, then we're already achieving it with the standard Western diet of French fries and hamburgers and Cokes and stuff, because everybody that eats that has a high LDLs as well. So whether you follow a specific diet that raises your LDLs or, just eat the average diet and get your LDLs high, either way, you've achieved your goal. Number 2, breakfast is not necessary. In fact, you shouldn't eat breakfast. This is the weirdest one, because at least when I grew up, because you were an active kid, you went out riding your bike and surfing and riding skateboards and riding your big wheels, and you were gone until lunch. You needed energy. You needed food in your belly so that you can have energy to go play. Well, now people think that breakfast is the worst food that you can eat, and you shouldn't eat it, and you should try to postpone eating till later in the day. And there's lots of weird arguments about this, like ancestral man didn't eat breakfast. You think, How does anybody know this? Do they really know? They really don't. I don't think they do. I think we're all making things up at a certain point. When I was in high school, I remember that kids that didn't eat breakfast, they did a study in the school system, and kids that didn't eat breakfast, usually you knew who they were because they were falling asleep at like 10, 11 o'clock in the afternoon because their brains would just get that brain fog because they had no energy. Some people don't like breakfast, and if you don't like breakfast, don't eat breakfast. It's not rocket science. But if you do like breakfast and you're particularly an active person, you may want to eat breakfast. You may not want to follow this advice because you're going to need energy to do stuff for throughout the day. Number 3, vegetables have lectins. I don't know what a lectin is, but it's gotta be bad. Yes, that's right. Vegetables do have lectins. These are just natural proteins within the vegetable, so you really don't need to fear them. This is great that vegetables have lectins because it gives us an opportunity to hate on the lectin, which means hate on the vegetable, which means you don't need to eat your vegetables. This is the greatest idea because no one likes eating vegetables, and thus it gives us an excuse to not eat our vegetables. Vegetables have a tremendous amount of nutrients in them. They have fiber. They're so flippin' good for our health. How do we not know this? The answer is because there are some people that they don't digest vegetables well. And if you eat vegetables raw, sometimes it can bother people's stomachs because of the roughage. It's hard to digest because of the fiber, which that's a whole good thing, right, for your digestive tract. No, there are internet doctors who tell you never eat a vegetable because the lectins will kill you, and buy their book. Speaking of which, I need to write a book so I could sell that on YouTube. Number 4, fruit has fructose. Fructose is bad. Why? Because fructose is a sugar, and sugar leads to obesity and improper speaking, evidently. And if sugar causes obesity and fruit has fructose and fructose is a sugar, hey, wait a minute. That means eating a piece of fruit makes you fat. That's right, folks. You heard it here, not first. You've heard it somewhere else, that fruit makes you fat. So the apple, the banana, oh my God, the banana, holy cow. You want to start a war, make a YouTube video and eat a banana. People will freak out. There's about 22 different reasons why you should not eat a banana. Did you know that? One of them is because you're gonna get really fat from it. Now, I go to the mall and I walk around the mall, and about 6 out of 10 people are clinically, morbidly, and I sit there and I think to myself, wow, these people must eat a lot of apples. It's such baloney, but somehow we've convinced ourselves, because if you tell someone a lie long enough and you do it in a convincing way, and if you do it with biceps or an abs or a stethoscope or a white coat, you must be an authority. And if you're on YouTube, you're an influencer, so you gotta be influential. So thus, fruit makes you fat. Maybe. Number 5, HIIT training is the ideal training for your cardiovascular fitness. Yeah, actually, it kind of is, except you gotta be in frickin' shape to do HIIT training. Most people don't know that HIIT training is not going and walking a little bit, then taking a break, and walking a little bit and taking a break. HIIT training is hard. HIIT training stands for high intensity interval training, meaning you are going balls to the wall. Each interval, you are going at maximum capacity. That's how it's done. High intensity interval training is not for the weak of heart. If you are obese, you have type 2 diabetes, you have stage 2 chronic kidney failure, you are, did I mention diabetes? Sure, insulin resistance, oh, and you have high blood pressure. You really think that HIIT training is safe for you? You're gonna have a heart attack. You need to build into it. So this idea that you should only do HIIT training seems to be very popular, but people don't realize that you gotta be in shape to do that. That's the icing on the cake of working out. Most people should be doing cardiovascular exercise where you at least walk to begin with, if you're the things I just mentioned. And then as you get stronger, as your heart gets stronger, you can go farther and farther, longer and longer, faster and faster. And then when you're at that peak of your athletic abilities, then you can do HIIT training. But nah, you don't take a 300-pound type 2 diabetic who's insulin resistant, who's got high blood pressure, smokes cigarettes, eats McDonald's, and say, oh, we're gonna improve your cardiovascular health. Let's get out there and do intervals until you puke. That ain't gonna happen. Number 6, cardio makes you fat. Yeah, thanks, V-Shred. What kind of logic is this? The idea is cardiovascular exercise creates too much cortisol, and cortisol causes your body to store fat. So if cortisol stores fat, cortisol is a stress hormone, cardiovascular exercise is a stressor, that must mean that cardiovascular exercise causes a person to get fat. Okay, smarty pants, if you don't want to do cardiovascular exercise, don't do it. What do I care? We all know that if you want the heart to be strong, you must exercise the heart. If you want the bicep to be strong, exercise the bicep. This is the problem sometimes with like social media and influencers and YouTube. And listen, I'm part of the problem too, is we confuse biceps with the heart. Just because you have good biceps or a good pair of abs doesn't mean your heart is strong. Do cardiovascular exercise. It doesn't take much to improve your heart health, but no one seems to want to believe this. It's the craziest thing. Number 7, there is only one human diet. Oh, and by the way, Dan Buettner, who wrote that book about blue zones, he lied. It was a conspiracy theory. He had an agenda. Yeah, sure, an hour away from me is Loma Linda with the Seventh-day Adventists. Oh yeah, they're out there just totally eating beef all day long. They're just chomping down on eggs and bacon and sausage. If there's only one human diet, then why do people in China eat differently than people in America who eat differently than people in Australia or Canada or India? You know, we all have different diets because it depends on where we live and what's available. We all want to be healthy. And the weird thing is when it comes to like blue zones, places where people seem to live a long time, it's not just their diet, but their diet has common themes, but it's not like there's one diet that outdoes every other diet. But if I was going to sell a book, which I'm going to make a book, by the way, someday, I honestly don't want to, but probably should. I'll title the book, Pick the Damn Diet That You Want and Just Stick with It. And chapter 1 will be, don't tell people about your diet. Number 8, this is freaking people out. Don't mix bananas with your blueberries because the bananas then will interfere with the antioxidant activity of the blueberry and you're basically just eating a load of crap. You may as well go to McDonald's. In this particular case, I think that we're starting to demonize the most minute little things that we're forgetting that if you're eating bananas and blueberries, you're probably a lot healthier than 99% of the population in your area. So while this may be true to some degree, just the fact that you're eating healthy is fine. I know you've been waiting for number 9. I actually have 10, so wait till the end of the video. But number 9, chiropractic is a scam. It's a cult. It's quackery, etc., etc., etc. Let me show you the 3 principles of chiropractic so that you can make a decision on yourself of whether you think this is a cult, quackery, and just a scam. So right here is just a plastic model of a spine, and each vertebrae should have a little bit of movement in it. So if I pick any vertebrae in the spine, we should be able to assess that there's movement. This should be kind of a no-brainer. This means that every part of your spine should have movement. Now, who would disagree with that? That's principle number 1. Principle number 2 is that whenever you have a macro trauma, like a car accident, a sports injury, or a fall, or a micro trauma, such as sitting at a desk like this for decades, or some type of bad posture, the fascia, the tendons, the muscles, the joint capsules around the spine will start to get tight. They become fibrotic and they start to lose their normal motions of the spine. By the way, that's irrefutable. That's like gravity. You throw an apple up in the air, the apple comes down, You don't question that. Same thing with what I just said is when you put yourself in bad postures, when you have injuries, the tissues get damaged and the joints don't move the way they're designed to move. So there's various ways to change the movement back to normal. And one of those ways is to simply use your hands or an instrument and coax the spine into its normal movements. This is what's called an adjustment. Now, who could possibly debate that? This is the part where people have trouble with because they think that what we do is we crack the bones, and we do not crack bones. If there is a noise, it's a release of pressure in the joints where there's these little gas bubbles that kind of come together. Similar to as if I did this, you wouldn't say I cracked my hands. What happened there? Because of the suction, there was air that came together, and that's what made the noise. So when we do an adjustment, I think this is where people have problems with chiropractic because they're fixated on the noise and they think that you cracked a bone, when in fact, all you did was use your hands to move the spine into a direction that it's supposed to move into. The third principle, of course, is you can't change the movement of the spine and have weak muscles around the area. So the third thing that we do is we rehabilitate a person so that we can gain strength. Notice I didn't say flexibility, but you want to have strength in the spine so that it can support your normal postures and actually support the adjustments and movements that we do. So it's not a scam. Your spine is supposed to have movement. We create movement with our hands. That's not a scam. It's not a cult because we don't have a cult leader. This isn't Scientology. This isn't the Branch Davidians. This is a profession, just like dentistry and medicine and osteopathy and optometry. It's not quackery because it's not voodoo. It's just what I just said. Chiropractic has been around since 1895. Not 1995, 1895. I would hope that at some point, people will start to realize that there are benefits of chiropractic. I mean, my God. The 10th and final thing that you'll see on the internet constantly, and I don't know why people say this, but cardiovascular exercise will not help you lose weight. I find this just mind-boggling and fascinating because the only place that you would ever see this information is on YouTube. If you watch different types of channels, in other words, you don't watch keto channels and carnivore channels and dietary channels, and you watch exercise channels, you'll see that there's a lot of fit people that are doing cardiovascular exercise. And then you go on dietary channels, they say that exercise doesn't help you lose weight, particularly cardio. So it's just weird that there's channels where people are in shape and they're doing exercise and cardiovascular exercise, and there's people that are doing dietary channels and they're always trying to lose weight, but they're never doing what's necessary. Let's face it, it takes work to lose weight. There's no hacks. And that brings me to a little bonus. Are there any hacks to health? It takes work, it takes dedication, it takes consistency. And if I made a video that said that, I don't think anybody would watch. These are the 10 plus 1 things that I see on YouTube that just seem to feel stupid to me sometimes, but they're prevalent, and if you say it enough times with the right influence, it starts to become a trend, and then all of a sudden, you cannot escape it. Do you believe all of these things? Have you bought into them? Do you still believe them? Do you think they're actually true? They might be, because some of these actually have some merit. There is some merit to everything that I just said, but yet, for the most part, these things no one ever heard of until we started watching YouTube. Let me know in the comments section exactly what you think of this video.